Hello, this is Miss Candy from TPOT Media. Welcome to Dark Exodus.
You often hear black people speak of culture, but in reality, black people, we don't really have a quote unquote culture. I mean, we really don't. I mean, we're not really tied to anything. Most of us, black folks in America, we all our culture has been kind of integrated into us, just like we were integrated into white America. I mean, we have adapted as a culture. Our culture has been set by others. And when I say that, what I want y'all to know is that black people had a culture many years ago. You know, back when we had, the Black Wall Streets, back when we had, our own shops, our own laundromats, our own restaurants, our own diners, our own movie theaters, our own transportation companies, our own everything. Now, back then, we did have a degree of culture because we had a culture of doing what we needed to do. We had a culture of family. We had a culture of togetherness. We had a culture of unity. We had a culture of blackness and what blackness meant. But since integration, and I think integration has a lot to do with the lack of culture, since integration, black people, we don't have a culture anymore. Our culture now, when you think of black culture, you think hip hop music, baggy clothes, caps turned backwards, grits and collard greens and fried chicken and family barbecues and freaking the electric slide at weddings and all this kind of nonsense. And none of that stuff right there is even culture. I mean, it's more lifestyle than it is anything else, because all those things that we do, all those things were set forth by others too. See, back when we had a culture, the reason why we had a culture, the reason why we had our own diners and shops and restaurants and transportation companies and things like that, the reason why we had all of that, y'all, is because back then we saw ourselves through our own eyes. And I say that to say this is because now we see ourselves through white people's eyes. Back in those days, we had a different perception of ourselves, okay? We saw ourselves differently. We saw ourselves in a more positive light. And I think we did see ourselves as a oppressed population of America. But seeing that oppression forced us to do for ourselves, because we realized that, no one else was going to do nothing for us, and we were ostracized and marginalized by everyone else. Therefore, we unified and consolidated with each other, and that helped us build. That helped us have a standard of living, of doing for ourselves, having solid families. That's where you get the it takes a village to raise a child kind of mentality, because that's how we had to be, because the circumstances that we were enduring during those times. But since then, I say again, we have been integrated. So now we have sort of adapted to and adopted, the white standard of living, the white standard of success, the white standard of education, the white standard of beauty, the white standard of what life is supposed to be about. So in a sense, we have let white people dictate what our culture is, okay? We've let them dictate what our culture is. And that in itself makes it so that we don't have one. Because if you have something, and the only reason why you have it is because someone else has given it to you, you can't say this is something that I created. Okay, so we did not create this culture. I mean, you have think about Asians and Hispanics. I mean, forget about white people for now. Think about the Asians and the Hispanics. See, they are tied to something. I mean, they practice a culture, not just a lifestyle. The way they live, the things they do, how they go about things, the way they educate their children, the things that they do to for the betterment of their lives. It is a culture. It's not just a lifestyle. See, black people, we have this lifestyle now since integration. We have a lifestyle of excess. We have a lifestyle of not only spending money that we don't have and spending money on a bunch of nonsense, okay? We also have this damn lifestyle of not understanding the fact that we are a separate people and we are outside of, and most of the time very indifferent to everybody else, and not just white people. Okay, we are distinguishable from Hispanics and Asians and Middle Eastern people and everybody else. Even though you hear people all the time, they talk about, oh, well, the Hispanics, they're black too. The Asians, they're black too. And, the Arabs and the Middle Eastern people are black too. And everyone knows, I mean, it's no secret that all life originated in Africa. That's no secret. I mean, some of the greatest scientific minds will agree on that. But at the same time, the only people who try to incorporate Asians, Hispanics, and Arabs and everybody else into blackness is black people. We are the only ones who do that, okay? Even if you got a few Hispanics or Arabs or Asians who say, yeah, I'm black too, they only say that stuff when they are around us people. They only say that then. When they get around their people, when they get around their Asian people, guess what? They're Asian. When they get around their Hispanic people, guess what? They're Hispanic. They get around their Arab people, guess what? They're Arab. Despite of what they're saying when they're in the midst of black folks. Because I know a few Asians and I know a few Arabs and Hispanics who say, yeah, I'm black too. Yeah, of course they say that when they're around me. But when they home, the last thing they try to incorporate themselves with is black folks. So we need to stop doing that too. But anyway, back to my point. When I say we don't have a culture, I mean, black people in America, I mean, some of us try to identify. Now, we try to identify, with African culture. But a lot of us, we don't even do that because we think that if we put on a damn dashiki and some medallions and a kufi and a headscarf and some type of Kenyan cloth, we automatically think that we have become more Afrocentric, if you will. Okay, we believe that we have become more Afrocentric, and really, a lot of us, we can't even acclimate to the African culture because a lot of us don't know how. We're not really familiar with African culture. Only thing we go by is what we think African culture is, and really, it's not. And it's a lot more than wearing a damn dashiki and putting on a headscarf. Okay, it's a lot more than that. I mean, a lot of the cultures, like black people, the only true black people who are tied to real culture is black people who come from other places. Like I said, people who come from the African continent, people who come Haiti, they come from Guyana, they come from Jamaica. And a lot of us black people that live in America, we have tried to adapt their cultures. We've tried to adapt that Jamaican culture. We've tried to adapt that Guyanese culture because, see, these people have countries that they come from, okay? They have countries that they come from where they do things totally different from the way things are done in America. Therefore, when they come over here, they bring that country with them. They bring that culture with them from that country. Therefore, they have that culture when they come to the United States. Us in the United States, we don't really have a quote-unquote culture, okay? Any culture that we have as black people, we have created it. We have created it in our own minds, and we don't really know what it really is. We really don't. So when you think about having a culture, We have to distinguish culture from lifestyle. And that's where I think black people go wrong. We get culture confused with lifestyle, and we think that our lifestyles are indicative of that particular culture. If y'all can understand what I'm saying, hopefully that didn't go over y'all heads. Because there's not a lot of black intellectuals in the world. I understand that. There's not a lot of them in the world. But what there are in the world is a lot of black people who don't not just understand us as a people. They don't understand black people as a people, but they also don't understand black people's place in the world. Now, it's not their fault that they don't understand that, but it is a fact that they don't understand that. Therefore, you won't understand that in reality. Most of us as black people, we don't have no damn culture.
Dark X.
Open your mind. Open your mind.
Only from TPOT Media. Open your minds.